Can a driver change his driving style in the middle of a world championship battle? Is McLaren sacrificing Oscar Piastri to benefit Lando Norris? What Mark Webber just said changes absolutely everything. Everything that is happening with Oscar Piastri and McLaren before the Las Vegas Grand Prix is not a product of chance. It is the result of an accumulation of technical, psychological, and political tensions that have been brewing long before the first visible symptoms of its decline appeared. To understand why Mark Webber, his own mentor and manager, has made such crude and direct statements a few days before a crucial race like Las Vegas. After the Dutch Grand Prix, Piastri had a 34-point lead over Norris. 6 races later, he had not only lost that lead, but was 24 points behind. An unprecedented statistical debacle in his short career. But the most striking thing was not the fall, but how it was interpreted within the team. Instead of protecting him or reinforcing his confidence, the public response came harshly, and from the most unexpected place, his own environment. Mark Webber, someone who knows the harshness of the paddock well after having lost a championship at Red Bull against Sebastian Vettel, decided to speak out, and not to soften the blow. Oscar needs to change his attitude, he said, a phrase so loaded with meaning that it resonated like an uncomfortable echo throughout the paddock. It was a declaration of psychological warfare, a reminder that F1 is not just a sport of speed, but a ruthless environment where even your own kind can demand more from you than is humanly possible. Webber compared Piastri's current situation to that of Lewis Hamilton on his legendary debut in 2007, but he did so not to praise him, but to make a difference. He said that, while Hamilton was a rookie facing Alonso on equal terms, Piastri is in his 3rd season facing greater pressure. He must beat his teammate, fight for Verstappen, understand an unpredictable car and, in addition, adapt psychologically in record time. This comparison was not fortuitous, but rather surgically designed to emphasize the extraordinary of the moment its pilot faces. But in doing so, Webber also put an uncomfortable truth on the table, that the problem is not the car nor the motivation, but the mind. Ralf Schumacher, a tough and unfiltered analyst, was one of the first to speak out. According to him, Webber's statements hurt more than help. And it is not an isolated criticism. Internally, there are those who believe that McLaren is pushing Piastri into an emotional abyss that may be irreversible if not managed correctly. Because it is one thing to demand excellence, and another to put on the shoulders of a young driver the responsibility of radically transforming himself in the middle of a battle for the championship, without mistakes, without pause, and without room for adaptation. The most dramatic thing about this awakening of conflict is not that there are differences between teammates, that is common in F1. The worrying thing is that, for the first time since Piastri arrived in the category, his immediate future within McLaren appears fragile. And it is not because of his talent, which no one questions, but because of the environment that surrounds him. A car that has stopped responding to him, a team that has stopped protecting him, and a mentor who has stopped defending him in public. This is the weather with which Oscar Piastri arrives in Las Vegas. Not as a promise, but as a pilot on the edge of the abyss. The question is no longer whether he can win the championship. The question is whether he can emotionally and competitively survive this unprecedented pressure. Because if you don't make it here, the damage could be irreversible. What is happening with Oscar Piastri cannot be explained solely from the emotional or competitive aspect. Behind its collapse and results, there is a complex and precise network of technical causes that are intertwined in every curve, every braking, and every millimeter adjustment of the MCL 39. McLaren, a team known for its meticulous approach to engineering, has conducted a complete post-mortem on Piastri's last 6 races. What they discovered is as worrying as it is revealing. Starting with the Dutch Grand Prix, McLaren detected a recurring phenomenon. The car evolved towards an operating window that began to move away from Piastri's natural driving style. It was not a sudden change, but a progressive adjustment that, race after race, ended up creating a completely incompatible environment for his driving. The technical improvements that originally sought to extract more performance from the car, optimize mid-corner passage, and reduce tire wear, began to indirectly benefit Lando Norris, whose ability to adapt is one of his greatest strengths. The MCL 39 is a car that is extremely sensitive to track conditions, especially when there is low general grip. This technical sensitivity translates into a greater demand for precision regarding the car's behavior in aggressive braking, slow cornering, and load transfer zones. For Norris, whose driving is more fluid and based on the progressiveness of input to the steering wheel and brake, this represents an opportunity. But for Piastri, who excels at more aggressive and direct inputs, the car began to become unpredictable. The telemetry data from the Austin and Mexican Grand Prix was lapidary. Piastri was losing time not on straights, not because of visible errors but corner after corner, unable to keep up with Norris' pace. The reason? The MCL39's electronic differential showed erratic behavior in slow corners, a critical situation considering that the differential is the main tool for controlling traction in tight turns. In practice, every time Piastri tried to accelerate out of a corner, the rear axle responded with instability, causing micro-corrections that fragmented his pace lap after lap. Furthermore, the analysis revealed a clear pattern of thrust degradation. In Mexico, the car's sensors indicated that Piastri was losing up to 10 km/h in top speed in certain sectors compared to Norris, without direct aerodynamic or mechanical justification. This deficit, far from being a driving failure, was related to an inconsistent power delivery, possibly the product of a less than optimal calibration of the motor map for altitude conditions. In other words, the car was technically programmed to fail at key moments for Oscar. And if that wasn't enough, McLaren confirmed that it will not be bringing any new updates to the car for the rest of the season. Andrea Stella made it clear, the MCL39 project has reached its evolutionary ceiling. This means that any improvements Piastri needs will have to come from his own adaptation. There will no longer be external aid. There will be no new parts that will give you back control over your car. Now it is he who must adapt and do it quickly. This situation represents a brutal paradox. In the midst of a battle for the world title, McLaren is asking its second driver to transform his driving style from the bottom up. Let him leave his comfort zone, let him drive unnaturally, and do it while carrying the pressure of being the youngest contender for the championship since the days of Hamilton. Lando Norris, meanwhile, has capitalized on this dynamic perfectly. He has demonstrated a surgical ability to interpret the car's behavior, adjust differential settings in real time, modify braking loads, and work with engineers to keep the MCL39 in a safe zone. His advantage does not lie in being faster due to pure talent, but in being more versatile. And that difference in Formula One is abysmal. Telemetry doesn't lie. The car speaks. And what MCL39 has said in the last 6 races is that Oscar Piastri is driving a weapon that is not made for him. The question now is not whether he can adapt, but how much he can adapt without compromising his essence as a driver. The Las Vegas street circuit, with its long straights, abrupt braking zones and inconsistent grip due to the cold night, is a true monster for any car that is not perfectly balanced. For Piastri, it represents the perfect combination of all his recent technical weaknesses: low grip, harsh braking, and slow cornering that punish drivers who rely on aggressive inputs. Here, every millimeter failure is amplified. Each late reaction of the car becomes a loss of tenths that translate into positions. From the wall, Tom Stallard has taken on a key role. More than an engineer, he now acts as Piastri's emotional and technical support. Your job is not just to adjust engine maps or DRS strategies, but to rebuild your driver's confidence. In every practice, every technical meeting, every conversation between laps, Stallard has the responsibility of recalibrating the mental state of a young man who, if he finds a way to reconnect with the car, still has a historic season on his hands. But to achieve this, Oscar must transform. Not in essence, not as a driver, but in his approach. You have to stop fighting the car and start working with it. You must modulate your corner entries, negotiate with oversteer, accept that you do not have total control, but you do have enough control to make a difference. You need to embrace the chaos that Las Vegas offers and turn it into an opportunity, not a threat. McLaren knows it. Mark Webber knows this. And Oscar Piastri deep down too. This Grand Prix is not just another race. It's your pivotal moment. The night where he can show that he not only has talent, but character. Where he can look at Norris as equals and not from the rearview mirror. Leave me your opinion in the comments what you think about all this.